There's lots of challenging times going on for everybody, for your family and for my family. For us as a congregation, there's a lot to learn. I want to be praying for Bambi and for Brody. Bambi, her dad passed away recently. Bear, be praying for them. And for many others of you that are dealing with difficult things. I promised Bambi I'd work on this song, and Bambi, I wish I could do it justice, but I don't have anybody to sing along with me quite yet. But I did want to just do a little. I'll try and do it maybe in the park on Sunday. To Canaan's land I'm on my way, where the soul of man never died. My darkest night will turn to day, where the soul of man never died. Dear friends, there'll be no sad farewells, there'll be no tear-dimmed eyes, where all is love, where in peace and joy, where the soul of man never died. Sometimes it's just difficult for us. In the fight of faith is believing that even when things are not working out exactly like we thought, like we've been talking about, the fight of faith is to remember that God is with you even in the middle of it. God is with you. Not because it's all going perfect, but God is with you in the middle of pandemics and now fire events for many, many people. All of the political turmoil and division where people are angry and judging each other all the time. Sometimes things are just hard. And the question is, the fight of faith is remembering that God is with you. And the other question that goes with it is, as God is with you, are you with God? Are you depending on Him? Sometimes in troubles, dark thoughts come to our minds and we forget God. We get caught up when things aren't going like we thought. Sometimes we get so focused on figuring out things, on working the problem. We stop relying. We stop having faith in God. We forget the old song, Tempted and tried, we're off made to wander, while it should be thus all the day long. While there are others living about us, go unaffected, though in the wrong. Farther along we'll know all about it. Farther along we'll understand why. Cheer up, my brother, live in the sunshine. We'll understand it all by and by. But we want to know right now. We want everything fixed right now. Well, that challenges your faith. We're trying to make sense of what's happening around us. And sometimes we even drift into always trying to take it out on somebody. It's hard to navigate a world that has so much chaos and so much darkness. It is confusing when TV preachers keep telling you, if you just have enough faith, everything will break for you. You'll get everything you want. Everything's going to go good if you just pray this certain prayer or this, this formula prayer. You claim it, you name it. I've seen people over the years lose their faith. I've seen them lose their faith in a false idea about God, that God is their cosmic genie, that they just kind of rub the prayer cloth or whatever it might be, and they'll get what they want. But it didn't play out in real life. And so their faith was crushed. But it really wasn't a faith in the living God, the God of the Bible. It was a construct, something false that they've been taught, something that's been fed to them and mixed in. The truth is that God says no a lot to us. And oftentimes God says, wait, not yet. Sometimes faith requires us to go beyond even this life. You see, God often leaves us in the place of unknowing, of wonder, of not understanding exactly why things played out like we thought they should. Many of those that have come before us walked through hard times and through hard places. But what made faith was that they kept trusting God, even when they didn't have a full explanation, or maybe any explanation. And that's what faith really is. It's when there is suffering and when there is uncertainty, and oftentimes when there is opposition. It's what you do then. It's what you think then. It's what you say in those times that reveals your faith to other people. It's what you do and what you say and how you act that ultimately builds your faith into something that gives God the glory. That's it. Let's take a little tour through the Bible, Hebrews chapter 11. And this is kind of a long passage, but just listen. It says, and without faith, it's impossible to please him. For the one who comes to God must believe that he is and that he's a rewarder of those who seek him. By faith, Noah, being warned by God about things not yet seen, in reverence prepared an ark for the salvation of his household, by which he condemned the world and became an heir of the righteousness which is according to faith. Think about that. That was not easy. Nothing about that story was easy. He wasn't removed out of it. He lived in it. By faith, Abraham, when he was called, obeyed by going out to a place where he was to receive for an inheritance, to a place which he was received for an inheritance, and he went out not knowing where he was going. He didn't have any idea what was going to happen next, kind of like us. By faith, he lived in an alien land of promise, as in a foreign land, dwelling in tents with Isaac and Jacob, fellow heirs of the same promise. For he was looking for a city which has foundations, whose architect and builder is God. You see, so much of what we're looking for by faith is beyond. Hebrews 11:11, by faith even Sarah herself received the ability to conceive even beyond the proper time of life, since she considered herself faithful. She considered him faithful who had promised. Therefore, there was born even of one man, and him as good as dead at that, as many descendants as the stars of heaven in number, and the innumerable as the sand which is by the seashore. What a crazy story. Make no sense. And all these died in faith, without receiving the promises, but having seen them and having welcomed them from a distance, and having confessed that they were strangers and aliens on the earth. So much of the contention and conflict and cruelty and injustices that we allow ourselves to be pulled into is we forget that we have something bigger that we live for. And for those who say such things, make it clear that they are seeking a country of their own. And indeed, if they had been thinking of that country from which they went out, they would have had opportunity to return. But as it is, they desire a better country, that is a heavenly one. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them. This is the idea that we are looking for something better, what God ultimately has. By faith, Abraham, when he was tested, offered up Isaac, and he who had received the promises was offering up his own only begotten son. It was he to whom it was said, in Isaac your descendant shall be called. He considered that God is able to raise people even from the dead, from which he also received him back as a type. By faith, Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau, even regarding things to come. By faith, Jacob, as he was dying, blessed each of his sons, the sons of Joseph, and worshipped, leaning on the top of his staff. By faith, Joseph, when he was dying, made mention of the exodus of the sons of Israel and gave orders concerning his bones. By faith, Moses, when he was born, was hidden for 3 months by his parents because they saw he was a beautiful child, and they were not afraid of the king's edict. By faith, when he had grown up, he refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to endure the ill treatment with the people of God than to enjoy the passing pleasures of sin. You don't get the idea that this was easy. Considering the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures of Egypt, he was looking to the reward. By faith, he left Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king, for he endured as seeing him who is unseen. By faith, he kept the Passover and the sprinkling of the blood, so that he who destroyed the firstborn would not touch them. By faith, they passed through the Red Sea, as though they were passing through dry land. And the Egyptians, when they had attempted it, were drowned. By faith, the walls of Jericho fell down, and they had been encircled for 7 days. By faith, Rahab the harlot did not perish along with those who were disobedient after she had welcomed the spies in peace. And what more shall I say? For time will fail me if I tell of Gideon and Barak and Samson and Jephthah and David and Samuel and the prophets, who by faith conquered kingdoms, performed acts of righteousness, obtained promises, shut the mouths of lions, quenched the power of fire, escaped the edge of the sword, from weaknesses were made strong, became mighty in war, put foreign armies to flight. Women received back their dead by resurrection, others were tortured, not accepting their release, so they might obtain a better resurrection. And others experienced mockings and scourgings, yes, also chains and imprisonment. They were stoned, they were sawn in two, they were tempted, they were put to death with the sword. They went about in sheepskins and goatskins, being destitute, afflicted, ill-treated, men of whom the world was not worthy, wandering in deserts and mountains and caves and holes in the ground. And all these, having gained approval through their faith, did not receive what was promised, because God had provided something better for us, so that apart from us they would not be made perfect. You know what's amazing? This is what faith looks like. It's rugged. It's tough. You know, we don't want to be inconvenienced. They were willing to put it all out there. We don't want to have to, give up anything, whether it's to, make accommodations for other people because they're vulnerable, whether it's masks or whatever. We don't want to do that. And but this is faith. This is what it looks like. You see, you don't get moved out of it necessarily. One thing you get is the path of faith is not a trip to Heritage Village, if that was still around, or to Noah's Ark Park. This is rough stuff. This is what you do. What you choose in the dark valley is what really counts. What you are doing in these days of confusion and division and deception, that is the question. What are you doing? How are you handling it? Are you stepping up? What are you doing in these days of difficulty and disease and disorientation? Your angry rants, whether they're in public or on Facebook, won't make things go away. Your denials won't heal the people. Your indulgences or distractions won't grow your faith and glorify God. But let me tell you what will. By faith choosing mercy and justice and humility and patience and love and forgiveness and service and faithfulness in the face of Facebook, in the face of pandemics and protests and politics and just general foolishness. So I want to make 2 or 3 points. Let's just cover them real quickly. First one, point we get out of all this is God will not always do something. God will not always do something. God will not always remove you from the dark valley. God will not always remove you from the difficult test, from the storm, the strain, the need, the suffering in this life, the inconvenience, the annoyance. God doesn't just remove you from that. And others experienced mockings and scourgings. Yes, also chains and imprisonment. They were stoned. They were sawn in two. They were tempted. They were put to death by the sword and went about in sheepskins and goatskins, being destitute, afflicted, ill-treated. Men of whom the world was not worthy, wandering in deserts and mountains and caves and holes. All these, having gained approval through their faith, did not receive what was promised, because God had provided something better for us, so that apart from us, they would not be made perfect. You know what he's really saying? Apart from you, sir, ma'am, apart from you and your faith choices right now, you choosing to do what is most like Jesus as a part of that long heritage of faith, that long chain of faith, apart from what you choose to do now, they will not be made perfect. They will not, their work will not be perfected or completed. How you handle this will lay the next row of living stones for those that will come after us. So the first point is, God will not always remove the problem, but God will always be with you. That's what he promises. That's the faith that we really believe in. You know, that's what Psalm 23 says. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil. He doesn't say I'm going to take you out of the valley. He's not going to air vac you out. He's not going to, carry you on flowery beds of ease while others fought to win the prize and sailed through bloody seas. I mean, this is what faith looks like. He's not talking about you going out and fighting with other people. He's talking about living out the love of God in your life with patience. Oh, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. For you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You've anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. What's he saying? He's saying that God is with you. He isn't saying he's taking you out of it. Psalm 46:1 says, God is our refuge and our strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear, though the earth should change, and though the mountains slip into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains quake at its swelling pride. Selah, our peace. He's with us. He's with us. His presence. He's with you. That's the faith. Isaiah 41:10. Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not anxiously look about you, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will surely help you. Surely I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. When you pass through the waters, Isaiah 43 says. When you pass through the water, it doesn't say I'm going to float you over or get you out of it. I will be with you, he says in Isaiah 43:2. And though the rivers, and through the rivers, they will not overflow you. And when you walk through the fire, you will not be scorched, nor will the flame burn you. He's not saying that you aren't going to go through it. He said, I'll be with you. He promises he will be with you. He will strengthen you. He will never leave you. He will see you over. He will see you through. He'll not leave you abandoned. Remember what the Great Commission says? Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. And remember this part, Matthew 28:20, teaching them to observe all that I commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. I'm going to be with you. So God won't always remove the problems, but God will always be with you. But you must. God will be with you, but you must be with God. You know, there's a passage in 2 Chronicles. It's a little bit confusing, but I think the sentiment is really this. In 2 Chronicles 15:2, the prophet is talking to the king, and he went out to meet Asa, and he said to him, listen to me, Asa, and all Judah and Benjamin, the Lord is with you. Listen, the Lord is with you when you are with him. What a promise. If you just stay close to him, he'll be with you. And if you seek him, he'll let you find him. But if you forsake him, he will forsake you. You know, a lot of people, I think a lot of religious people, a lot of church people have forsaken the Lord, getting off on all these other things. And you won't have his help. You won't know his peace. You won't know the presence of his grace. You'll miss it. He will always be there if you will seek him. He always will. If you don't, and you begin to seek other things, you're going it alone. You can do that. That doesn't mean that God is like, not still going to keep his promises toward you, but you're not going to experience the presence of him being with you. That's why Isaiah 55:6 says, seek the Lord while he may be found. Call upon him while he is near. You know what he's saying? I'm going to be with you, but be with me. Let the wicked forsake his way and the unrighteous man his thoughts, and let him return to the Lord, and he will have compassion on him, and to our God, for he will abundantly pardon. You know who he's talking to there? Religious people. He's talking to Isaiah is talking to the most religious group of people around. He's saying to them, and let him return to the Lord, and he will have compassion on him. You know, some of you need to return to the Lord. You've been off pursuing all these other things, focused on these other things, battling and preoccupied with these other things. He's saying, return to the Lord. See, to experience his peace and presence, you must draw near to him. You know, that's what James says, isn't it? Draw near to James 4:8. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. What a promise. You see, he will be with you. But you must be with him to experience that. Jesus said, abide in me and I abide in you. If you abide in me and I abide in you, if you abide in me and I abide in you, you'll bear much fruit. And peace is part of it. You see, in faith, that he is near, you need to draw near to him right now. You can do that. You can draw near to him. You really can. Draw near to him. He's with you. He's not going to remove all of these challenges and these struggles and who knows how long this will last. But he'll be with us. But we need to be with him. Would you do that today? And I want to encourage you to share this, if you could, with somebody. Share it. And you may watch this, and then you may want to say, hey, I'm going to go down and listen to this at the park too. I'm going to, be set up and come down. Maybe I'll bring my chair or a blanket, and I'll invite somebody, and we'll bring our masks and we'll put them on. And I want to tell you that in the message on Sunday, we're going to get a special extra with Dr. Michael Falloon. He's a whole lifetime career as a medical doctor, providing care for people. He's worked all over the country, and he just did a trip to work in a area hard hit by COVID on the Navajo Indian Reservation. You probably read about it. And he's going to talk about his trip and what his treatment was and what his treatments were and how he dealt with people. Look, all these people claiming expertise on this. listen, come and listen to somebody who really is an expert, has expertise on this and has experience on this, has worked with COVID patients. He's a medical doctor, decades of experience. You can listen to him. You probably ask him some questions afterward. But in response to this message, you may want to say, as a next step, you can go to that next step that is going to be up on the screen. They're going to put that address up there for you. And you can type on that and you can respond to this. And you'd say, look, pray for me as I draw near to Jesus Christ in faith. We will pray for you. You may say, pray for me. I want to know what to do next. Maybe it's going to be baptism or something else, and we'll work with you on that. Pray my faith will grow, that God is with me in this dark time. We will pray for you in that way. And then pray, I will live as light in this dark time. We will pray for you about that. You may want to give. A lot of you wanted to know about that. You can give. And I know that sometimes we'd like to make it as easy as possible, but you just go to the menu and it says give and you click on that. And there's not too much work to actually click. And you can become a recurring giver. In other words, once you set it up, it gives a set amount every so whatever you tell it to. And so we really want you to, because we're trying to help a lot of people. TFBC Church is not closed. We're very much open, doing services like this and in-person services and other things. And as we move closer and closer to the change in the weather, we'll be offering different options that are going to be safe for you and careful for our community as we are charged to protect the flock. And so we'll be telling you more about that as we go along. I love you, and I'm looking forward to you being able to share this with other people.